What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Living Blessed, the podcast. I'm your host, Jovan J. Palmer. And as always, we have special guests sharing their most vulnerable moments. And I have the great, right? I am right. Great,
I
right?
like great.
You like
yeah,
great?
I
Okay.
like it. I like
the
it.
The great Tomeka on today.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I like that you said the great.
I mean, I figured I had to. If I didn't, you was going to drag me.
I wasn't going to drag you. I humbly say thank you for saying that.
No problem.
Yeah, gave me some confidence right now.
You already got
Building up my confidence right now. You got me in the hot seat today. I'm in the hot seats.
It ain't that hot.
I need some grace.
You got all the grace.
Right.
Grace has been extended to you.
Well, thank you for having me here.
No problem. Thank you for coming. So how's life? Introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are. Because I know you, but they don't know you.
Well, life is going great. Great is the word today.
For sure.
That's what we just gonna let great. We're gonna let great set the atmosphere. Life is going great. I am Tomeka Jackson. I am the wife of one, mother of two. My profession, I work in media in the arts entertainment industry, primarily as a producer, creative director.
Oh.
And right now, currently, I am launching my first ever, I'm executive producing my own TV show called
Really?
Go Girls Rock.
What is
Go
it?
Girls Rock.
Go Girls Rock. Okay.
It's a TV show that spotlights spirit and faith-filled women who have taken the Great Commission of Go, the Great Commission in the Bible to go, and they've taken that and they are impacting in their careers, their businesses, their homes, and in their everyday lives.
I love
and
it.
so they're called Go Girls. So I spotlight their inspiring stories and allow them to share how they are impacting with their faith.
That's dope. Now, how'd you get into that space?
Into that space, well, actually, I started out because of course, I have a college degree in broadcast journalism.
Okay.
And so I started out my career working in the media as a morning show producer and as a noon reporter. So if you know anything about morning shows are shows.
Mm-hmm.
They are entertainment driven. And it's the most income producing show of any network. So you have live entertainment, it's fun, it's some hard news, but for the most part, it's a show. So I learned how to oversee major projects, bring in the talent, book the stories, book what we're talking about, send reporters on location. So my producing experience started from that point. And as I grew in my career, what I ultimately wanted to be was a news anchor. But life, sent me in a different direction. And so I ended up working more on independent projects as a producer. Because once you learn how to produce a morning show, a live show, and you produce award-winning shows, you can pretty much produce anything.
Okay.
So my experience there it put me in demand in other places. So I started doing conferences, I started doing festivals, I started doing all types of events as a producer. So I was able to step out on my own. And when I thought about what I got in the media for, which is to ultimately someday have my own show, it just came a point in my life where I was like, hey, I would take the skills that I had and I'm gonna put them for myself.
For sure.
I've done it for so many people, so I started working on my own show, and here we are. So I'm doing it for me now in this season.
That's amazing. So, what was the thing that propelled you to getting to this space now? Because a lot of times, like I said, life sometimes throws off curveballs. Like for me, I had wanted to be in the sports industry.
Yeah.
But my curveball in life threw me into the psychology field.
Mm-hmm.
What was that curveball that led you to say, I want to get into production, I want to lead my own things and kind of go there?
I think it was life.
Okay.
When you start out, lots of times, if you talk to anyone that works in like broadcast media, a lot of us, we start out in broadcast media because we love being in front of the camera. We're very charismatic people. We love telling stories. We might be great at writing. So I have to use this word. Sometimes the vanity part of it is more tempting than anything. We want to be in front of the camera. But when you realize, if you look at a whole lot of broadcasters today, a lot of them have left the industry. Some of the greatest people that we love, that we watched over the years, they left the industry. Why? Because it's more to having the spotlight on you than you just being cute. Like, you literally, when you walk in the broadcast industry, because so many people are looking at you, we literally have a responsibility to shape the convictions of people in some kind of way.
Yeah.
And when you find out that you don't have control over what you are releasing to the people, and you are a person like myself, it matters to me. It mattered to me one day when I had to report a story on a politician in Florida that later on we found out was not true, but I didn't run a story to say it wasn't true because I didn't have that control. Yeah. So here's a person's life who's destroyed because of the coverage that we did just around the rumor. But I did not have the authority for the story that comes back and say, hey, this was all a lie, you know, this was a plot to bring him down. I don't have that authority. So I felt like I had a responsibility to get on a path where my work was more meaningful. So that's why I started to work more on the production side, and I would take projects that had more meaning to them. And most of the projects that I started taking on the production side were faith projects, you know. So I did, you know, a lot of Christian conferences, Christian award shows, Christian events, to where I felt like it was doing more good than it was hurtful. Now, the secular projects that I would take, you know, once I was done, I was like, I just spent the whole day listening to Let's Go What? My spirit is vexed.
Yeah.
And everybody falling over me, drinks everywhere, I smell like smoke, you know, and I know this is my job, but no, my work should be more meaningful. So that's what kind of threw me in that direction, as well as my responsibility as a mother. See, my responsibility as a mom first to my children was important. And in order for me to climb up the ladder in the broadcast industry, in the industry that I was working in, something was going to have to take a back seat. Okay. And a lot of women, I will say, have chosen for their families to take the back seat. But for me, as a woman with daughters, I could not, you know, let my children take the back seat. Because I was having to leave them with other people, go on a story, leave them with other people, going in the middle of the night. And I just wasn't willing to, at the expense, have a great career at the expense of sacrificing my children and my relationship. So I just took another direction, and I felt like eventually what God had shown me that I would be, because he showed me that I would, you know, be a voice. And I knew that if anybody knew how to get me to a place where I could be a voice, it would be him. And I've seen how over the years, me taking a backseat, me working on projects, the behind the scenes, prepare me for what I'm doing now. So that's, you know, how life navigated me in that area.
Okay. So do you feel like your life, I don't want to say do you feel because it's your life, but has life always been where God has guided you, or you've taken the direction that God has given you and you've moved in that direction?
Absolutely. Let me tell you, I'm a firm believer all the way to the negative experiences that I had. I'm a firm believer that heaven has a conversation about all of us.
Heaven has a conversation
about all of us before we get here. Heaven knows. There's a council that sits in heaven and says, Tomeka, what are we going to send her to this earth to be doing? Okay. And I believe heaven had a conversation about me, and there was a pathway that God had written, and he set it in motion. And he, even as he built me, he put things in place to get me to where he ultimately was going to take me. And I believe that's how it is for everyone. Of course, I know that he saw before me that because he gave me free will, I wouldn't always choose right. But I believe there was always a hedge. I was always hedged in. You know, I believe I was always hedged in to where, you know, I know she's going to do this, but I'm not going to let her go this far. You know, there are vices that I have, but there are some vices that I don't. So there were certain things that I knew God was like, well, we know she can't do that. So I believe that there were just boundaries that were set in place to help keep me on the right path, even when I made wrong choices in life. So I do believe that my steps have been ordered all the way. Sometimes life is best looked at when you look back at it. So, of course, when I was making these decisions, I was like, I'm never going to get to it. At this point, Tomeka, you done mess everything up.
Yeah.
So you might as well just throw the towel, because you never getting there. I have been in situations where I feel like I will never get there. After this right here, I'm never getting there. But something, that spilt inside of me had me to still get up the next day. Had me to still show up. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that the whole time God was just navigating me and ordering my steps the whole time. Because when I look back, I promise you, when I look back, like on every side job, I say, oh, I know why I was there. I'm looking back at it now like, oh wow, this is why I was there. I get it now. So life is best looked at when you look back. So when I look back, I know that God was guiding me and directed me the entire time.
Okay. So you mentioned some of the negative experiences that you had in life.
Yeah.
What are some of those negative experiences that you have experienced and gone through, and how did those experiences shape you?
So let me just start by saying, before I even was an adult, my innocence was taken from me. My innocence was taken from me 3 separate times. 2 of them were family members, okay? So my innocence was taken from me by way of sexual abuse, of course. My innocence was taken from me, and not only that, because it was family members, I had to be around those people as if that never happened to me.
Yeah.
So at a young age, I learned how to handle pain. I learned how to wear pain very well in the midst of people who inflicted the pain on me. So from a young age, my sense of relationships, what love was, because these were people who still showed up. These were people that people still loved, had around me, in spite of what they did to me. I learned how I kind of attributed this to like forgiveness and moving on, being around them and still showing them love, even though they were continually. This is when something is continually happening to you, that's chronic trauma in your life. It's sure. Chronic trauma.
Yeah.
So these things were continually, happening to me. So the way that I handle relationships, I started to shape this idea from a broken place. That people could just do whatever they wanted to do to me in life. And I'm just, still being around them, still letting them come in my space, was just how I should be. And it's called forgiveness,
Yeah.
And that's not what forgiveness is at all, So my relationships, I had a perception of what relationships were from a very broken place. I felt like it doesn't matter what a person do, they can shoot you in your heart and you live, and you wake up and they looking you in your face that it's okay for them to still be in your space. And 2 weeks later, they shoot you again. And you still be in their face again. So I had just, my experiences, that experience from a very young age just shaped how I dealt with relationships, not just, love relationships, familiar relationships with family, work relationships, letting, people that I work with, do terrible things to me. And I'm still over and over again dealing with these people who cause so much pain in my life. And so it took me a while to get some healing from relationship trauma, because when you see relationships and how you handle relationships from a broken place, you deal with broken people. And you attract broken people. And so from having so many relationship failures, I remember one time the last terrible relationship I was in, I was talking to one of my leaders. When I tell you, he said the most life-changing thing to me to help me start my healing process. And I said, what is wrong with me? And I was just like, oh, because everybody used to always tell me I was beautiful. They used to always tell me I had a big heart. They used to, I love people. But relationships, I was failing at it on all levels. And one relationship, I was really like depressed over it. And my mentor, he said to me, I said, what is wrong with me? He said, you know what? You want to know what's wrong with you, Tomeka? He said, it's just real simple. I don't want you, just kill yourself over this. He said, you just have a bad choice of men. And he said, you have a bad choice of men because of how you see relationships and what kind of men that you feel like you should have in your life. That's the only thing wrong with you. You have a bad choice of men. Not that it's wrong, something wrong with how you look. He said, but because you're so broken when it comes down to relationship, what type of men you should be having in your life, you're choosing the wrong people, and you're choosing it from a broken place.
Yeah.
So then I started researching brokenness and wholeness. And so I took a journey of healing, and I took myself all the way back to the place of where that happened to me and why I see, broken birds can't help broken birds. Who gonna help? Somebody did. Right.
Yeah.
So I got on this path of allowing God to heal me from all that pain. Because let me tell you what I got accustomed to. Because of being so put together.
Yeah.
And not letting people see how hurt I had been in life. Like, being so strong and like, I didn't let that get to me. And not dealing with that pain from these traumatic experiences. Like I had first of all, to have your innocence taken at a young age, that's traumatic in itself.
Very. And
for it to keep happening, and you have to be around those people. And people call them great people after they know what they did to you. That's just traumatic in itself.
Bias, yeah.
That's just traumatic in itself. So I had some traumatic, situations, relationships where the betrayals were like, you would be looking at me like, Tomeka, how are you living? How did you make it out of that? Like severe pain through relationships that, I didn't learn how to manage well. I was just like, you get up, girl, you put on your shoes, you keep going, and not, dealing with that and healing from that. And I talk to my daughters all the time, and I tell them this. I say, one of my biggest issues, biggest problems that I had in my life is the relationships that I was in. The relationships are so important. People, like, the right person in your life can help take you to where you need to be in your life, and the wrong person can have you in the graveyard. And so people don't get that, and that's why I preach to my children, relationships are everything. And if you don't learn what's a good, healthy relationship, I started out wrong in the area of relationships. I just I was not dealt the right cards, and I had to just be like, had a conversation with God, like, listen.
And what was that conversation like?
I mean, I was like, listen, God, I ain't had nothing to do with me being molested starting at the age of 8. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't have anything to do with that. That went from 8 to 12. I had nothing to do with that. That had something to do with relatives. I was a child. I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
So because I didn't have anything to do with it, I know you built something in me to overcome it. So I need you to help me overcome it, because I was going through a phase in life like, why God let that happen to me? I had to understand, man, we live in an evil world. People are doing what they want to do. That was those people's choices to do what they did to me. They made a conscious decision. The first one to do that to an 8-year-old, all the way till she was 12. The next one to start, those human beings, because we are human beings, we're in the earth and we're humans. God ain't in this earth. Right. So these are human beings making choices to do this to a little girl. And so I was like, God, if you let me make it to this point, I didn't die, and you gave me daughters. Man, what am I supposed to do with this? And so I wanted to healthily get through my pain and my trauma so I can show my daughters how to live out, a life of when you're hurting and when people inflict pain on you. And I didn't want their life to be impacted because of my trauma. So I worked very hard to exemplify strength, forgiveness. I shared with them what happened to me, and I told them who did it.
Now, how was that conversation with them?
Oh, so I told them who did it, and then I had to talk to them about not mistreating the person who did it.
Got you. That's a tough one.
But let me tell you what I did tell them too. Don't never be alone with that person. Don't never, if you ever, never. And I also was able to talk to them about, the fact that if that ever happened to them. Now, I try not to live a life where I was so protective of them because of what happened to me.
Yeah.
But I was very vigilant with my life with my daughters. I didn't let them go stay the night anywhere. I didn't let them just be around, anybody. I was very vigilant, but it was in a way where they still were free. But when I talked to them about that situation, I let them know to be on high alert, because if a person did that to an 8-year-old or 11-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever, that person has some stuff in them. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling y'all that person has not changed, but what I'm telling y'all is when some of us, what your weakness is. When you have a weakness, if that thing does not stay under, so that person could still be fighting with that thing, and you might trigger it. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to have to die, because I ain't even finna be by my they're going to have to die. I'm sorry. So I teach my children I taught them how to move right. Okay. Even in the home, like I'm like, because I got married, again, and I'm like, listen, y'all, this is a certain way you carry yourself. This is, just as a young woman, I took that opportunity to, help my children be proactive and help them protect themselves and help show them, signs of, hey, we don't trust them. They have the ability. But I told them who it was, and I'm going to be honest. Like to this day, the battle to keep that, sometimes I get angry because I see those people, but I see how their loved ones, like put them on pedestals and stuff like that. And then I'll be thinking about, do you know what they did to me?
Yeah, for sure.
I'll be like, right now at 45, because these people are still in my family.
Yeah. And it's like you can't get away from it.
Yeah, you can't get away from it. And so it's the same thing with, my spouse, my husband. I'm going to share that this happened to me. So I'm constantly reminding everybody, hey, y'all, it happened to me. It didn't happen to y'all. So I want y'all to know that in a healthy way, I've overcome and I'm still overcoming. Because these are active members in my family. So if something happens to them and my family is being empathetic, and I had to tell Tomeka, don't be mean. I'd be like, that's what you get.
Right.
That should be happening to you. And I'd be like, okay. And sometimes like my husband or my children will be like you just be around that person like they did nothing to you. I'm like, it's too many other lives that are involved, that if I do something crazy, it's going to cause so much pain in other people. It's my trauma though. So if I do something, Javon, and because of what they did to me almost 30 something years ago, all the people that I bring, so many other people or so many other lives in it, that now my trauma becomes somebody else's trauma.
Ooh.
And I don't want anybody else to wear my trauma. Mm-hmm. When I told my kids that, I had to only give them so much now, because I didn't want them to be traumatized. If they knew the details, that probably would be hard for them. Like, it was hard for me to share my husband. I was like, what? Like, what they did, what? Mm-hmm. It was traumatizing to him. So if I do that, it's going to be so many other lives that are going to be impacted. That's why I take my role working, in and media very important. And I when I'm sharing with people how to share their stories, how to share them in such a way where you're not destroying other people's lives or bringing your pain, inflicting your pain on other people. It's a way to talk about this to where people don't feel like they want to cut their risk after they hear your story. You know, people will be like, "Oh, I got molested," and I'm like, "Man, I just want to die. Like, why do I want to die?
Yeah.
And I have nothing to do with this." No, it's a way to share it. So you should leave people on a note to where it's going to encourage them. It's going to be informative, you know, in some type of way. So I'm not going to, you know, react to these people, and they have children, they have grandchildren who don't know nothing.
Yeah.
And then I open up this, you know,
this
can, and then now there's the trauma, the curse of trauma is passed down. Because they're gonna remember it.
For sure.
It's going to play back in their mind.
That's something nobody really gets over.
Right.
I know that 100% because I've experienced the same exact thing. I don't believe I'll ever get the image out of my head.
Right.
And
it's hard to.
It's very hard to, and that's why I'm very careful in whom I share the story with.
Right. Because
like you said, it can be instances where I share it with the wrong person, and then they go and badger that other person. And then it's like I said, the whole can gets opened up, and then nobody knows how to close it up because not everyone believes in therapy and going to get the right help and seeking the right help. Like, you know, you went to your mentor, and, you know, when actually later, was therapy a part of your process and stuff like that? Because a lot of people just don't know that had it not been for therapy, I would never have gotten to the point where I was able to truly forgive myself.
Right.
And my question for you now is, like, you know, what point did you get to where it's like, you know what, I feel comfortable in the forgiveness for me first?
I think it was, you know, after, of course I was over 40. I'm 45 now. So it was, you know, after this last terrible relationship I had where I really realized that, you know, I had some unpeeling to do. I had some peeling of some layers that I just had to do. And I had to come to a place in my life where I know I need some help.
Yeah.
I need some help to resolve all of this, because all of this came from way years ago of stuff I never, you know, ever dealt with. And let me tell you, at one point in my life, I forgot like a whole period of like 12 years of my life. I didn't even remember what happened. I just blocked that out of my life, because that's where a lot of the trauma was. And I couldn't remember I didn't have like a whole lot of great memories of my childhood, because my childhood was not all bad. When I got 40 is when I started realizing that I had some good moments. I didn't grow up terrible. Like, these were instances that these people had robbed me of the great things that happened in my life. And I knew that when I turned 20 is when, and I left home and went to college, and is when I really started to make decisions on my own in life, apart from my, you know, my mom and my family. And that's when all of my problems in life started to happen, when I had to live life. And I lived out life from a broken place. And so for the first 20 years of my life, I realized, in which my husband I'm married to, he met me at that time. I was in college. So the next 20 years of my life, I lived my life like making so many terrible decisions that could have completely messed up my destiny, that could have just really just took me out. Like, not just mentally, but just took me out, like me not even be here today. I made some decisions like that for 20 years of my life. And I knew that once I got out that last relationship, you know, I knew that if I didn't get help, the next 20 years of my life was going to be the same way. And so my brother, let me just insert this. My brother got murdered here in Atlanta in 2011. When he got murdered, that kind of pushed me over the edge, because it was on the first 48. It was in the media. I was on the first 48. You know, it was in the news. I was doing interviews. on the other side as a victim. It was a high profile case, so we was on the first 48 DeKalb. And during this time, when my brother got murdered, my only brother from my mother, my best friend, he moved to Atlanta to be with me. He lived with me for 2 years. 21 days after he moved out of my house, he was dead, got murdered. Now this is what threw me over the edge in my life, you know, and I started spiraling just from all the trauma in my life. And then the relationship came. And then one of the things that I did was I didn't get therapy immediately, but I started drinking. So wine was like a way I could just pacify myself and just not deal with none of it. And so I never forget, this was around the time where I was 40. So I never forget my husband talking to me. And my husband said, he's known me since I was 20. That's why this is, you know, how this all panned out. My husband said, I've seen you go through so much in your life. I've never seen this part of you. And he's a person that, he was just like my brother. If something happened with me, he always like, oh, you got this, you got this. My husband was just like, I never seen you like this. And I'm worried about you. And I'll never forget, like, I had this, like, come to Jesus moment. I was like, I got to get help. Or number one, I would kill somebody because I was drinking my life away, like, not dealing with my problems. And I knew that I had to get to a sober place in life so I could look at all this stuff, look it in the face.
Now, what was that moment that just, like, that triggered you to say, I have to get help? Like, you know, I know you're talking about the drinking, but, like, in that moment, like, where were you? Like, give us the picture. Like, you know, there were some people who talks about I was in a dark room or I was in the house with a gun to my head.
I know what the moment was.
What was that?
So I had been drinking, I had been driving, and I had been drinking like one night. This is so good. I'm so glad you asking me this. I never shared this with anybody. I have been drinking, I've been drinking and driving all night, and my husband, that used to be my thing. I would go out and drink, and I would get away from everybody. And anybody my husband or my children would know if she's gone, Lord, she done went and got some wine or something. And I would go, and that night I was just reckless. I don't even know how I made it home. And so I made it home, and I told my kids, you take my kid, it's funny now, but that night it wasn't. So I told my kids when I got home, I was like, I'm giving y'all up for adoption. I can't believe they believe me though. They know I would never get them up for adoption. So I told the girls, I'm giving y'all for adoption. And I was just in this and they were so upset with me because I said that night. And so I was wasted. And I woke up the next morning, and my husband had told me, he said, girl, like, you got like alcohol on the door. Like, where did that come from? I was like, I don't know. I didn't even remember. And that moment, I remember when it was June. It was June 2016. And I woke up that morning, and something in my spirit said, if you don't stop, that's it for you in your life. You're going to lose your children. You're going to lose your husband. You're going to lose your life, or you're going to take somebody else's life. And let me tell you what I did. I got on right then. I Googled AA. I never shared this story, so you getting some, you know, G14, you getting an exclusive. This G14 classified information. You need to know this. I Googled Alcoholics Anonymous. The crazy thing was they had a meeting 5 minutes from where I was living over in Roswell that morning. It was like 6 a.m. It was going to start at 7. So nobody told me this, nobody. This is just something that came to me. So I got up, put on my clothes, and I went there. And I sat in a room of about 27 people in there. And they went around the table, Jovan. And they talked about all that they had went through, all that they had lost. Some of them ran Fortune 5 companies. They lost their jobs. Some of them had beautiful families. Some of them had killed other people. Some of them had limbs were missing from accidents. It was people just talking about how trauma had drove them to drinking and them not dealing with it, and how that had to happen. Terrible things had to happen for them to get to a place where they stop. Honey, by the time they got to me, I was just like, I couldn't even talk. I just like, I don't know why I'm here. And guess what? I never went back again.
Really?
I never went back again.
One time was enough.
Never took another drink from that day. There was a woman that I met, because when I walked out, I was the only African American. It was me and one other African American woman. When I left, she came to ask me my name. She's older than me. She took my number. She still can't believe to this day, because she thought I was gonna come back again. I was like, I don't need it. I'm not ever. She still can't believe, because she relapsed a couple of times after that, and she been going there. I never took another drink again, and I started my process of healing, where I was soberly dealt with my pain, and I dealt with my pain. I took responsibility of what I was responsible for. And I was like, this is what I'm responsible for. But this right here, I ain't taking the blame for that. So, I forgave myself for the things that I had a part in. And then I forgave people who didn't ask me for forgiveness for their part. And the fact that one of the greatest things that helped me was my husband and my children. They were just like my brother. They never, no matter how vulnerable I was and how broken I was, they always saw me as that great person. It was nothing that I had done, even when I spiraled out of control with the drinking. They always just saw me as like, we know you got this, you strong, you're powerful, you have such a great destiny in you. My husband, it was really, the most beautiful thing, because like that man, like he's the most upstanding guy ever. That would not be like, girl, this girl. He was just like, he tells me all the time, he was like, girl, I just don't know. He was like, girl, I was just looking like, he said, when you would do stuff, I would just be like, what? Like, what? He said, but I knew, I just knew you. I knew that there was a place in you that you were going to get past this. And you got to have somebody like that around you.
Oh, for sure.
You got to. This is getting healing and wholeness in your life. It at least got to be one person.
Yeah.
It's something that cannot be done alone. I don't personally believe. Even if you heard it off a message or off a podcast like this, somebody has had to say something that resonated in you, that built you up, like back to, you could do it. So it was that day on my couch. And then when I went to that AA meeting, I was like, what? You lost what? What? I was like, no, Lord, no, I'm not. It was you know how the ghosts that stole Christmas, when they take you on the when the
they show you like different parts of life that you missed out on, or some things that happened.
I just felt like I was seeing my future.
Ooh.
And I was like, no, this is not, what God has for me. What I saw and how I saw my ending, it's not like this. And so I got to deal with this pain. If I don't deal with this pain, my life is going to be destroyed. And it's going to be all my fault. These people were in places in their life they couldn't come back from. They couldn't go back to their career, had $1 million homes, and now was staying in shelters. Come on. If I was in, I don't even know if I would. You just have to come get me, because they were in places where they couldn't come back from, if you think about it. But they could. But if you think about it, you would think, you're not coming.
They were just so low.
They were just so low, and I knew that I still had some people that were in my place, because my family didn't understand. My mom, my sisters, they really didn't know how bad it was, because I was so strong with being able to hide my pain. Only people who could actually see it were the people who were in immediate contact, my children and my husband.
So how was that for them, experiencing your drunkenness and, them just not knowing if mommy's gonna make it back home, or if my wife's gonna make it back home? Like, what was it like for them in that moment?
I know that, my children always tell me, like, Ma, we used to be so worried about you But then they were like, but we were worried about you, but we knew that, like, we know mama. Like, they felt like they had some times where they were like scared, like, we don't know. But they always said, because they're very, strong young women of faith. And they knew what kind of faith I had. And they knew that they had, seen me overcome some things. And so they still had this sense of, mama gonna come back from it. But they were very afraid if I didn't. One of the deepest, I talk to them all the time. We're very transparent family, and I want to know how my children are feeling. I sat them down one day and I said, what was, in y'all childhood, can y'all tell me like the most memorable thing, impactful thing that negatively that, y'all have experienced, so I want to know. Now, I don't want to hear it from Oprah. Y'all ain't finna get on Oprah and be talking about me. Y'all finna tell me before.
Tell me now.
Y'all not gonna be on Oprah talking about, oh Lord, this lady. No, what y'all ain't finna do is that. So one of my daughters was, when I went through unbroken relationship, the last traumatic experience I had in a relationship where we ended up, I lost everything I had, and I had to live with family members, and to them, in their mind, they were used to living a certain type of life, and it was like we was homeless. Now, we never slept on the side of the street, but we ain't have our own home.
Yeah, to call your own.
They're used to living nice, having a nice life, us having a home, and I lost, literally, that relationship left me, in a terrible place. And so that was my, my oldest daughter's, that was her experience. It wasn't even the alcohol. That was not traumatic to them.
Yeah.
It was just that, she couldn't believe that we didn't have things anymore, and I lost everything. It was literally stolen from me. But my younger daughter, though, it was the time I said I was gonna give them up for adoption. I was like, why did you believe that? She was so upset about that. She was like, the next day, and after I came home, like from my AA, that little experience, she said, and mama, oh yeah, and I gave them like thousands of dollars. I had just, I came home that night and gave them like all the cash I had hidden, and I gave it to, distributed it to them. I forgot all about that. so I gave them all the cash I had. Like, it was like $1,000 a piece, and they came in there, here's your money. This was after I came back from the AA meeting. Here's your money. And then my little daughter said, and I hope you know last night you said you was gonna put us up for adoption. So I was like, I did not. Yes, you did, Mom. And I was like, but I would never do that. But it's just the fact you said it. And she left. So that really bothered her. So that was the one experience that we had. But, I'm thankful that it was by God's grace.
Yeah.
That, when they were asleep is when I really did my little drinking and all of that. But it was never anything that I did that would interrupt our daily life or anything like that. So I asked them about their most traumatic experiences, and overall, they've been able to make it out of all of the struggles that we've experienced together, and to be very, very well-rounded babies. And I believe that's why God gave me daughters. I believe that's why he gave me daughters. And I'm thankful, that I was a church girl, that I knew at a very young age that I needed faith. I needed God in my life. I knew that it was kind of like written in my soul, because for that one reason, I never stopped having God in my life. And God being a part of the equation of me becoming who I am. And I'm glad that God, even what my vices were, my troubles were, I'm glad that God allowed me to graciously overcome them so my daughters can see, and so I always talk to them about, like, listen, y'all don't make the same mistakes I made.
Right.
But it's more good that they saw, I'm happy about, because I did not allow my kids to see a whole lot.
Yeah.
So it's more good that they saw than the bad. But I made sure I shared with them experiences, because that's a part of me mothering them. So yeah, they all right. It wasn't like the drinking didn't take them through trauma, like, except for that night, honey. Why did I have to say I was going to put them up for adoption. I'm like,
Why they
I would never do that.
Right. But they just don't know, like, what's pushing you there?
My daughter said she believed it. Jay believed it. She said she believed. She was like, no, she did. All the things she could say.
Can't wait to see her.
She gonna put, and they threw all the little thousands of dollars on the sofa. I was like, who gave you all this money? They're like, Ma, that's your money. You gave it to us. And then they said this, and I hope you know you gave the homeless man like $1,000 too. I was like, really? They was like, yeah, because you told us you gave the homeless man down the street $1,000. I was like, so I counted my money. I was like, oh, I did. I gave the homeless person $1,000.
He's forever thankful.
I was like, oh my God, I did that.
Even in your mess,
I
you still
gave
bless
him $1,000. That's crazy.
So I want to talk about the strength of your husband and the patience of your husband.
Oh.
Because in an instance like that, in a situation like that where somebody's coming home drunk, was it every day or every other day or just weekly, whatever it
was
may be?
Just like, it would be like I have me like once a week or when I drank.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. So it would be like once a week or I have a day where it's like that. I have had times where it'd be like a Friday and a Saturday and it's just, so it wasn't, I wasn't drinking 30 days out of the month. Hold on.
I want to clarify for the people watching.
Let me tell you, this man, I'm a firm believer that there is someone that is right for you. My husband definitely is that one. Because I met him when I was in college at 20. We did not get married then. And I was pregnant with my older daughter.
So when y'all met at 20, were y'all just friends? Were y'all dating?
We were just friends.
Okay.
And I was pregnant. This is what I'm trying to tell you, how life is just crazy. I was pregnant with my older daughter then and didn't know it when I met him.
Wow.
So me and him stayed together.
Through that?
Through
That's a
all
strong
of that.
brother.
And mind you, I was pregnant before I met him and didn't know it. He took me to the hospital. And he's the one who told me, because I was doing so much in college. Me and him went to FAMU together. So he ended up graduating from FAMU. I ended up leaving because I was in my senior year and I had my baby during that time. But and if it had not been for him, I wouldn't even got to that point. I'm gonna tell you, because my husband was like, when he met me, and then I found out he took me to the hospital because I wasn't feeling good, and I came out, I was like, I'm pregnant. He was like, you pregnant? I was like, yes. And so we knew it wasn't his, we were just,
Mary and Joseph situation
so I was like, he was like, what? I was like, yes. And I was like, don't worry. I was like, honey, because we not having this baby. He was looking at me like, what? He's like, you're not having the baby, but you're pregnant. So I was like, yeah, but I got things to do. I'm finna graduate from college. I'm about to be, Katie Couric. It wasn't Oprah. I was gonna be Katie Couric. You too young to understand.
You just dated yourself.
So I was gonna be Katie Couric. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't even talk to that guy. Like, da-da-da-da. My husband looked at me. He said, I promise you, if you have this baby, whether me and you make it or not, I'm gonna stick with you with this baby. You're gonna have this baby. I was like, what fool would do? Like, you a fool. He was like, I promise you. He said, that's my word. He ain't never lied. When he gave me my word, that girl is finna be 25.
Wow.
That little girl is finna be 25. He has been the father. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, throughout my life and me, because I was so broken and going through all of this, my husband has always been my friend. He always been the homie. But he was just the homie. And so for me, because he was such a put together guy, he got a college degree, he got an honest job. I want all the thugs, I want all the broken people, I want all the people who didn't know what they were doing in their life, I want all the people who had habits, I want all the broken birds. Yeah. My husband over here like an eagle, like got plans for his life. I always say that if there was anybody, because I'm a woman of faith, I'm a Christian, when the Bible talks about your husband got to love you like Christ loved the church, that man, since the day we met in college, whether we were dating or not, this man was always like, you that girl, but you crazy. But you that girl. He's always been a friend to me. Even, when I didn't, we weren't in relationship. He's always been a great friend. Like, we could laugh. We break up and he got a girlfriend or something like that. I'll be like, honey, I know she don't look better than me, so it don't matter. And then he'll be like, oh, I know you with that dude, but he a buster. I'll be like, well, okay. So, but here's the thing. Because of my brokenness, I was raised in the church. So I always felt like it didn't matter to me. As long as you said you know God, you could be selling drugs on the corner.
Neighborhood dope boy.
But you love the Lord. And I just believe you love the Lord. You could have killed somebody.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
but he's still, that's God's man, I was the most broken person ever. And my husband was always the most patient with me in life. He would always, I would break up with him and be like, because first of all, you don't know what it's like, to have life hard. Like, I would just be wearing him out. Like,
He stuck around.
This man, all the way throughout, and I'll never forget my last situation that I had, and it was time for my oldest daughter to graduate. It's the most beautiful display of love from God for me. My oldest daughter is getting ready to graduate from college. She was like, Mom, I know you going through with your situation, but I want my daddy there. And I was like, you want who? It's like, I want my daddy there. She was like, so I don't know, you need to call him, So I was like, but I don't want to offend anybody. And she was like, Ma, I need you to call. I'm graduating. This ain't about you. So I need you to call my dad. And I'll never forget, I was like, oh my God, when I called, I said, I'm going to call his mom. Let his mom know that everything, and to relay the message. In my heart, I thought, why surely he's married with kids, all this stuff. And, I had gone too far at this point, because I had made so many bad decisions out of my brokenness. And so at that point, when his mom was like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, our baby getting ready to graduate. So when he reached back out to me, I knew that, that it's just the homie calling, the baby graduated. Yeah. And then, he found out, he didn't even ask me about my situation, because he told me he always knew the outcomes. He always knew I was making bad choices. So he was just waiting on me to tell him. But the severity of it was what broke his heart, was that, not only was, the relationship and work, but how broken it left me and the girls, and he didn't know about that. That's what broke his heart so much. And so I was still afraid to kind of find out what was going on with him. This boy better tell me he been married. He married, And it didn't matter at that point, because that wasn't the purpose. But I'll never forget, he was telling me, he said, Tomeka, he was talking to me, he said, Tomeka, you're such a beautiful girl. I always, since the day I met you, felt like, like you're this strong woman that has so much going in your life. He said, you just, I don't know why you just keep, like, these guys are all wrong for you. And so I was like, yeah, no, I'm never going to get in a relationship. I was acting a fool. And I said, ain't nobody going to want to be with me anyway. He was like, well, hey, that's your fault, because you already know what was here over here this whole time. So I was just like, it's over. I'll never get a chance. I wasn't even really thinking that way, but I was just like, I had no idea. This man, from the beginning of life, me starting my phase of living life, you gotta remember, I met him at 20. So this next phase of my life, like, he done lived through all of this. We have pictures, like, from every single decade of us breaking up on and off, all the way from when we first met in college. We have pictures, memories. And, I started to think about, this has been the one for me the whole time. I've just been the most broken woman ever to be able to receive this is it. Because my husband was always like, Tameka, a man got to have himself together. He was all about having a plan. Like me, I'm just all over the place.
Yeah.
We don't need no plan.
We out here, we doing it.
And I used to be like, all we have to do is stay in a cardboard box. And I remember one day, my husband asked me, he said, how did that cardboard box work that you wanted to live in? How did it feel? That's what you wanted to live in, right? I was like, yeah, I used to always say, long as we love each other, we can live in a cardboard
We be
box.
good.
He's like, okay, how does the cardboard box feel? And I was like, that was just the most unhealthy way to live. So I always tell women, especially my friends who are single and stuff, I'm like, y'all, it's some good men out there. We just be broken like a mug. We be just broken.
Y'all hear that?
Yeah,
some good
it's
men out
some
there.
great men out there.
Great.
And they not married, not because, of any other reason other than they're very calculated men. And they know what they stand to lose if they take you on. Because one thing about my husband, and I say, and for all the women out there too, I don't care how broken you are, what you went through, when you talk to a man about that and he wants to know that, he's counting the cost.
Wow.
If he can deal with you and your stuff.
Yeah.
So my husband knew what my stuff was. When my husband asked me, well, so let me see what your credit score is like, because I know what life been like. What's your credit score looking like? He counted the cost of my debt. Okay, so if something happened to you, Tomeka, this is the debt that I'm gonna have to worry about. Okay, I could deal with that. He's counting the cost of the baggage, and my husband knew that he had what it took to walk with me to a place of wholeness. And he stuck with it. And like I said, it's not because men, he was broken. My husband's a whole man. He didn't come from no troubled past and all that. He has his parents love me, have always loved me since they first met me. I didn't think it was men like that existed. But also with him, a lot of times women, when we're broken, we attract broken men. We want to help them, all they need is a birth certificate. And a social security number. And we good. See, my husband didn't need a whole man. He knows what he wants. He knows where he's going. Some of us who broken, we intimidated by that. Because that man ain't going to let you run him.
What does that intimidation look like?
I mean, it looks like I can't boss him. Like my husband had a clear vision of family, what it looks like to legacy, generational wealth. He could fill out his own job application.
Don't need no help.
He don't need my help. Like the things that I was helping all these other men with, my husband was like, what? Go do what? Girl, I know how to.
Right.
I'm finna go online and do it myself.
Yeah.
So I would feel so helpless, like I'm not needed. And my husband would tell me, no. What you was doing for them, you're not supposed to be doing. I have my own dream. I have my own destiny. I'm responsible for that. As a wife, I'm gonna tell you where I need you in that area. And that was the part that I felt like, let me do this, let me do that. My husband was like, no. Let me work on this. I got an accountant. Well, let me do this. I have a lawyer. Well, let me do this. Okay, no. So the things that he needed me to do was just help my home be peaceful. He needed me to get to a place of healing. He needed me to pay attention to the girls. The things that he needed help with that were very small, and I'd be like, man, I can do that. But see, he allowed for me as a strong man to be in a place of rest and peace in my life. I've never experienced so much peace in my life where I'm not fighting, where I'm not, trying to work for his love or do something for him to, He knew exactly what he was getting, what he needed from me, and that was for me to be me. Sometimes my words, sometimes my encouragement, sometimes the fact from a long day, I know when I come home, my husband has peace. Yeah. When he's making decisions and he's talking to me about certain things, and I offer my opinion and I say things from a different perspective, he's like, okay, yeah, I never thought about that. So I had to learn to just rest in the fact that I was in the right hands as it relates to a husband. And he loved me for who I was, brokenness and all. And so I didn't have to work for nothing. That's how it is with God. With Jesus, you ain't got to work for nothing. It's already been handled. And so I go to sleep at night. I got to wake up, you know, is the lights going to be paid? Like, really, there's a man, it's nothing like, and I've never experienced no one like him. And since I met him, a man of his word, man of integrity, a man of God, for real. Because what I thought a man of God was a man that go to church on Sundays.
Yeah.
But this man is a man of his word. He loves me. He protects me. He, beyond what he sees, my pain, my hurt, he had patience with me. Grace, like, this girl done came home. and sometimes we laugh about it, because one time he was talking about, remember that, he said, one time, girl, you tried to steal on me. And I was like, what? He was like, girl, you tried to swing on me. I was like, what? He was like, girl, I was like, this girl done lost it. He's talking about, you tried to steal on me. I said, really? We can laugh about that.
Yeah.
But at that moment, because he's a healed man, a whole man, he understands this girl going through something. This is not, I know that this is pain. I know this is hurt. I know this is, you know, but, you know, like, girl, you pushing it, like.
Getting there.
You get, all right now. And every time I thought that I had just did it, that was my last straw. There was always grace for me, from him. You know, and I had so many relationships where, you know, all my faults were always magnetized. You know, what I wasn't, I was always told what I wasn't. And to see, you know, I thought it was the most beautiful thing to see, you know, someone like my husband to just love somebody like me who had so many, you know, mistakes. And he's been there with me from the beginning in my life. And, you know, that's why I believe that direction that you was talking about before. I believe God points us in the right direction. It's not funny to say that you like bad guys.
Yeah.
That ain't funny. That could end you up in the graveyard, a mental institution, in a hospital, or your destiny snatched out of you. That ain't good. That ain't, oh, I like me a bad. That's you gonna learn later in life that, you know, that's not what brings you peace. That's not what brings you joy and brings you happiness. There are some healed, whole men who have the capability of leading you in your life. And I let my husband lead me. I don't have no problem with it. I am a woman of strength and grace. But when my husband speak, and I know he's speaking like it's a no, I'm following him. That's where my favor lies. That's where my blessing lies, is learning how to gracefully follow him. If it ain't lead me to sin or killing myself, I humbly, when that man speak, okay, this what we doing. And so I'm glad I've come to a place in my life where I'm healed enough to understand my place as a woman. My place as a woman, my place as a healed woman, a whole woman, and I'm able to live it out in front of other women, because we gotta live that blessed life.
For sure. For sure.
And we can't live it and experience that blessing. We can't experience that good marriage, that dream that right now I'm slowly working through building it now in peace. I ain't worried about nobody cheating on me, doing all kind of crazy stuff, waking up with no lights on, no water. Listen, I'm traumatized by that. You just don't know. Look, living from a whole place in life, you know, that's that blessed life.
Yeah.
I call it the above life.
Oh, it's definitely above.
Above and not beneath life. You know, where I have everything I need at this moment in life in order to continue to build and work towards, you know, what I believe God ultimately has for me.
That is a beautiful story.
Oh,
because you talked of the highs and lows, and I feel like you didn't leave. You left it all on the table. And you talked about the strength not only of yourself, but the strength of the people who were directed in your life. You know, that conversation in heaven you talked about that happened for you before you were destined to be here. That's a beautiful thing, and a beautiful thing to kind of help a lot of Christians who believe when these bad things happen to me, for the people who don't believe when these bad things happen to me that there can't be a God. There, why would God do such a thing? If there's a God of peace, a God of love, how could God allow this to happen? But you explained that in a way that I'm hoping that people understand.
Right.
That there's God's will and there's free will, and people have their own vices, they make their own decisions, and they choose to do what they want to do with their lives, and we just happen to be innocent bystanders of their poor decisions.
Absolutely. And life is all about decisions for all of us.
For sure.
And the decisions that we make personally are going to determine, the outcomes of our life, but also at some point the decisions of other people.
Yeah. And
so we were victims of decisions of other people. And it took me a while to understand that you have to be like living under a rock to not know that we just live in a world where there's so much evil. And the only way that could be lived out is if it's being done to other people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and I believe to a certain extent, that evil that is done to us, because like I said, I live from a value system of the Bible, that evil that was done to us, it worked for our good.
Yeah.
Listen to the story of Joseph. See, we have the same type of anointing that's over Joseph's life, because what it ultimately did was put him in a place of influence by way of affliction, of hurt, of pain. Pain has its way of producing passion, purpose, and power. Mm-hmm. And so for us to get to a place where, even on the pathway of that, we get to a place where we don't allow our pain to impact how we are treating other people around us. That's when you're healed. Because remember when Joseph got there, and the very people that hurt him, he had his own brothers.
Yeah.
He had to be the one to bless them. And so we have to go through a process of life where God grows us through that pain, and he heals us so that we don't do the same thing to people that was done to us. And hopefully that's what it does to us when we grow, that we don't, I have so much compassion for people because of what people did to me. I have so much compassion when I see people in pain, when I see other women talking about they've been molested. I understand that we all go through our situations differently, but I can relate to the pain. Mm-hmm. And so I understand why my pain has purpose, because now I got to help this young woman.
Facts. Mm-hmm.
I need to help her because I've been through it. Yeah. This other woman coming out of broken relationships and feels like she's nothing. Now I need to tell her my story so that she can have a clear picture that it's been done. I always tell my kids, it's been done before. Y'all don't have to do what I've already done for you. I tell my sisters, you ain't got to do it. I can tell you how this is going to end. Don't do that, because I've already lived it. So when we've already lived through the pain, we got a healthy way of seeing it. We can share it. We can help other people.
That's good.
We can help other people.
That's good.
So I'm so free from what I went through. Sometimes I told you, I said, I'm living that today because, I'm still around those same people. And I'll be like, first of all, you ain't all that. Do you want me to be quiet now? Because I know something on you. You better sit down. Because, okay, so of course as a man. So you could have a wise, he's the best thing ever happened to.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, but he the worst thing ever happened to me. Y'all need to turn he's the worst thing that could have happened to me. So you have all of that you in conflict with.
Yeah, every day.
You in conflict with, look at my amazing father. And I'll be like, girl, you must know your daddy is the devil. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a constant, fight in life that we have to, keep ourselves in check, keep forgiving. Because I'll be like, I'm going to expose you.
Say something else.
Say something else. Be up here crying, talking about you lost somebody. What did I lose because of what you did to me?
Right. Yeah.
So we're growing and we're learning, and I'm thankful that I'm at a place in my life now where I can talk about this stuff, because all of this stuff was a red badge for me. It was like, the scarlet letter? It was like a scarlet letter. Have gone through so many broken relationships, gone through being molested, losing things. It didn't go together with the put togetherness. But it's one of the greatest strengths that I have, the ability to overcome with my faith and understand that there's nothing that we can go through in life that God can't help us get through. He's with us. The time will will it be evident? Like where you was when that fool had his hand on me.
Right.
God's like, no, I told him don't touch you now. People got to realize this.
Yeah.
Don't think for 1 minute they didn't stand with a choice with, all right, now don't touch her. All right, now don't touch him. Oh, don't think for 1 minute they didn't have that choice. I told them don't touch you. Now they did what they wanted to do. It's going to work for your good. But for them, I got them. I'm going to handle that. So we got to rest in the fact that it's going to get handled. It might not look like it's getting handled.
Right.
Because the wifey got your picture up there talking about oh, my king. It look like it ain't getting handled. But God say, no, it's going to get handled.
For sure. In the way that it needs to be handled.
The way that we need to handle because we want it to be handled.
Right. Handled all the way.
I need the world to know what you did, how you did it, and sometimes what's one of the best temp checks for me is God will be like, girl, all right, now some stuff don't nobody know you did.
Play if you want to.
So we want to start exposing people.
Oh, let's start with you first.
We gonna go with you first. So that's a good temperature check too. Is that it might not be as severe as what they did, but we got some stuff. We like, no, keep that on. Keep that on.
Tuck that in.
Tuck that. I'm gonna just tuck mine in
right.
Red. I'm gonna tuck mine in. Tuck mine in. God like, okay now. We want to expose. I'm like, nah, we ain't want to do that. I'm gonna let you handle that.
You got it. I'm gonna let you handle that one. All right. I'm gonna back off. I hear you.
Look, but can you let me see a little bit of you handling it?
Nope.
God be like, nah.
Yeah, I'm told you, chill out.
I got this.
Thank you, Tomeka.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We're gonna do a quick commercial break.
Okay.
And then I want you to close us out with something. You kind of just. The whole episode has been powerful.
Oh, I ain't got to close out. You close out.
Yeah, you gonna close out with a little something and let people know where they can find you. Your next when the production is gonna be produced and everything like that. And you close out with some powerful words. So this episode is sponsored by the Emboldened Institute. This is the only place that I know that is helping individuals who have suffered sexual trauma or some type of trauma in your life that helps you overcome those situations like Tomeka spoke about in her life as well. I send out daily text messages to you where it's helping you heal that broken place in your life, that's helping you overcome, because a lot of times, we're scared to open up, we're scared to go to the therapy, we're scared to really just help ourselves get the help that we need. So I'm here to help you until you're ready to get that help. So text me 404-476-6780. Text me the word HEAL to 404-476-6780. And also, I know a lot of times when you're in brokenness, it's hard to affirm yourself. And I've been there where it's just been hard for me to affirm myself. So I've started an affirmation challenge as well. You can text me the word affirmation. I send out daily affirmations 7 days a week, and then we don't take no days off. 7 days a week, you text me the word affirmation to 404-476-6780 because I want you to affirm yourself and know that you are enough, that what you've gone through is very minute to what you're going to get to. So text me, stay in contact with me. Tomeka, take us out.
Listen. Trouble does not last always, but trauma has its way of sticking around, the trauma of the trouble. It's our responsibility to take that experience and get healing from the trauma that we've experienced in life. As he said, that you are not what happened to you. There's some place in life that God wants to take you. It's called your destination. You have a responsibility, you as a human, to get there. And when you get there, you want to have dealt with the trauma. You want to have received the healing so that you can experience the blessing of your destiny.
That's good.
And so, get your healing. Get to a place in your life where you take it, you face it, you hit it head on, and you deal with it. God can't heal what we won't confront.
For sure.
He can't heal what we won't confront. So get to a whole place so that you can experience the blessing. The blessing. And so thank you for having me. My show, Go Girls Rock, it airs in February.
Okay.
And it's going to be on YouTube channel, but I am going to a network as well. I can't tell y'all the network yet, but y'all watch me. Go follow me. Go follow me on IG, Instagram at I am just Tomeka, and I'm on Facebook as well at Tomeka Jackson, and you can go to my website at www.gogirlnow.com. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Like you done freed me today.
Hey. Thank you. Now your story freed me. Just from your experience, even your husband's story freed me as well as a man.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that as well, because I love hearing stories of when a man is able to come into a broken life.
Yeah.
And still just stick there, because I'm still in a space where I see them like, that's a red flag for me. I'm gonna leave that alone. But just your husband's testament to just being a man and just really just sticking through, because he saw the vision of not who you were, but he saw who you're going to be.
Yeah. And
that's where I think a lot of men, we kind of need to just kind of settle a little bit and just kind of see beyond people's troubles. And if you're that guy who doesn't have himself together yet, just recognize that as well. Say, I'm not there yet. And
right.
There may be a woman who may be what your husband was to a guy.
Right.
We just gotta really get ourselves to a space where we can get beyond ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I believe this story here and this podcast episode is going to help a lot of people.
Oh, wow.
Get beyond themselves and to really understand that their brokenness doesn't last forever.
Amen. Amen. I'm a living witness.
Amen. Amen. So y'all heard it first. We are here. We are out. Peace.